Good afternoon. Welcome to Tuesday afternoon's Tea and Chat Poetry with me, Basil Nankivel. I work in Trowbridge Library, and because of lockdown, of course, I'm not there at the minute. I'm in my house, surrounded by some of my books, and this afternoon I've got a lovely cup of tea, and hopefully you've got yours too. Why not take a seat and sit back and enjoy a bit of tea and conversation with me. I'm going to pour out my cup of tea now. Cheers. Nice to see you. Right, so I'm going to read you a few poems today that I hope you'll enjoy. They're some of my favourite ones. Some have got a little bit of a story to talk about as well afterwards. And just enjoy yourself for the next sort of 15-20 minutes or so. I'm going to start with one of my favourite, which I really, really enjoy because it's not really got that many real words. I did an assembly a few years ago at a school in Trowbridge, at Walwyn Court School, and I stood up and I read this poem out to the whole assembly. It was about 200 children, and they looked at me quite strangely until I explained it to them afterwards. It's by Lewis Carroll, and it comes from Through the Looking Glass. And this poem is Jabberwocky. Hope you enjoy this. Jabberwocky. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wave. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome raths out grave. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the jub bird, and shun that frumious bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand. Long time the manxome foe he sought. So rested he by the tum-tum tree, and stood a while in thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock with eyes of flame came whiffling through the tulgey wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through the vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galumphing back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy, O frabjous stay, Callooh, Calais! He chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wave. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome raths out grave. Now, I love that one, partly because it's full of nonsense words that don't really mean anything. I mean, what does all mimsy were the borogoves actually mean? 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble. What's it all about? Okay, so I quite like sort of playing around with words and playing around with meaning. The reason why I really enjoy Jabberwocky, particularly by Lewis Carroll, is because it's a really exciting poem, an exciting story. The Jabberwocky, this terrible beast, is out there, and someone goes and hunts it down and chops off its head and takes the head back, and everyone's thrilled. But it's got all these words in that don't really mean anything, except you know what they mean, because you can tell from the context. And that's why I love it, and I think it's a great one to enjoy both as an adult and as a child as well, just sort of making up words. Scary things, scary phrases or scary ideas, or words that just don't mean anything, that kind of give a sense of what it means without actually being precise. The Jabberwocky. Okay, so that's come from my collection of the Oxford English Library of Oxford Library of English Poetry. I've got a 3-set volume of this, so it's got lots of poems in there. I was thrilled when I have got this, because I haven't been able to get the regular library books I get out of the library when I'm doing poetry. Okay, it's nice to see people here. Okay, hi to Katie and Dave and Laura. Nice to see you there. Okay, all right. So that's the my first poem, Jabberwocky. Okay, a great one to do, and I hope some of the children at Walwyn Court still remember me doing that assembly a couple of years ago. All right. So there we go. I'm going to have another a bit of tea actually. I'm quite parched today. Cheers. Oh, I've also got, I'll show you this because it's quite exciting. I've got some biscuits. In our house, we always make our own biscuits, okay? and get slightly twitchy if we haven't got any. So there's always biscuits on the go. Last Friday was my son's birthday, and loads of his friends came, sort of visited him over the day and left packages of biscuits and cake on the door as well. But these ones actually made by my wife Claire, and they're lemon biscuits. Okay, I might have one of those in a bit. Yum. Right, okay, I'm going to do another poem. I'm going to do one that one of my other sons liked. Alex is studying GCSE English, and it's one of his favourites, this one. He said, oh, read this one out as well. And it's quite a good one, because it kind of shows you how nothing's permanent. Okay, everything's a little bit temporary. And it kind of is nice to reflect on that at the minute. You know, here's me sitting at home talking to you out there. You're all in your homes. Okay, really probably definitely I want to get out and see you all again for real. And I'm sure other people feel a bit like that as well. Anyway, this is called Ozymandias, this poem. Ozymandias, it's a sonnet, so it's 14 lines long, and it's written by P.B. Shelley. Ozymandias. I met a traveller from an antique land who said, 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions red which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them, and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear, my name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. So there we go. Ozymandias, King of Kings, had this great, dramatic, terrifying statue built of him around his empire. And you go there now, there's nothing there, apart from his wrecked statue. Things aren't permanent, it's kind of nice to reflect on that at the minute, okay. All the analysis in the poetry is my own, okay, and I'm sure there's lots of other things you can do in that book, and I'm sure Alex will tell me a lot more anyway later. Okay, Ozymandias by P.B. Shelley. Alright, now, I've got one of my favourite poets is John Masefield. John Masefield, he was Poet Laureate from 1930 all the way to 1967. 37 years he was Poet Laureate. And he wrote some fantastic stories. His early life was really quite tough, and he went travelling by ship across the Atlantic, went and lived in America for a while and then came back, was quite poor. And the poems I really like are the ones he's written about sailing. They're quite exciting, and I quite enjoy them because I get a sense of what it might be like there. So I'm going to read 2 poems by John Masefield. The first one is in my Poetry Please collection, okay, and it's called Cargoes. Cargoes by John Masefield, Poet Laureate. It's great if you don't know it. Quin Quireme of Nineveh from distant Ophir, rowing home to haven in sunny Palestine, with a cargo of ivory and apes and peacocks, sandalwood, cedarwood and sweet white wine. Stately Spanish galleon coming from the isthmus, dipping through the tropics by the palm green shores, with a cargo of diamonds, emeralds, amethysts, topazes and cinnamon and gold moidores. Dirty British coaster with a salt-caked smokestack butting through the channel in the mad March days, with a cargo of tyne oil, road rail, pig lead, firewood, ironware and cheap tin trays. Well, how about that? Okay. And I love this one. So Cargoes by John Masefield starts off with this very dramatic, grand thing, a Quin Quireme of Nineveh. Quin Quireme means it has 5 rows of oars inside the ship. Stately Spanish galleon, verse 2, also very grand. And then you've got verse 3, kind of going a bit more down to earth and back home, with a dirty British coaster with a salt-caked smokestack Great fun to say as well. Okay. Dirty British coaster with a salt-caked smokestack. Have a go at saying that. John Masefield, cargoes. And my other favourite one, I think is a favourite of a lot of people. I've talked to a lot of people, and lots of people know this poem. It's called Sea Fever, also by John Masefield. And I think it shows sort of a yearning to be out there, back out on the open waves. I think is what he wants. Maybe we'll have a bit of a yearning to be out there. Okay, so Sea Fever by John Masefield. I must go down to the seas again, to the lonely sea in the sky, and all I ask is a tall ship and a star to steer her by, and the wheels kick and the wind's song and the white sails shaking, and a grey mist on the sea's face and a grey dawn breaking. I must go down to the seas again, for the call of the running tide is a wild call and a clear call that may not be denied. And all I ask is a windy day with the white clouds flying, and the flung spray, and the blown spume, and the seagulls crying. I must go down to the seas again, to the vagrant gypsy life, to the gull's way, and the whale's way, where the wind's like a whetted knife. And all I ask is a merry yarn from a laughing fellow rover, and a quiet sleep, and a sweet dream, when the long trick's over. Sea Fever by John Masefield. It's a lovely one. It's one of my favourites as well, Rebecca. Okay. I must go down to the seas again, to the lonely seas in the sky. Oh, yes. I really want to go down to the seaside. Haven't been there yet. I'm looking forward to it when I can. All right. Just a little aside. This book here is called A Little Aloud. And it was produced by an organisation called the Reader Organisation, and they're a charity based up Liverpool way, I think, and they've created this anthology of poetry and prose to read aloud. It's great to do. We have copies of it in the library. This is actually my own copy as well, and there's about 40 or 50 different themes throughout the book, and each theme has one little story, usually an extract from a novel. But it can be short stories, it can be other writing as well, classics, modern, everything. And then a poem to go with it. So this is Sea Fever, which was they tied up with a book, a chapter from The Call of the Wild by Jack London, which is very exciting. I'm not going to read it now because it lasts 11 minutes, but about the Klondike Gold Rush and cold weather, not what we're experiencing at all at the minute. Okay, so it's worth having a look at. If you ever want to read aloud to a loved one, or to a family member, or to a group. I have gone and done it in old people's homes and with Alzheimer's support in Trowbridge and various other read out extracts from this. It's great. It's a great one to have. Okay, so that's from A Little Aloud by the Reader Organisation, and the poem was Sea Fever by John Masefield. Okay, all right. Now I'm going to do another favourite poem. In fact, I'm going to do a couple more that I know people will like. One you will definitely know, and it tells of a hot June day in Gloucestershire in 1914. Actually, it was written, this poem, and it's written by Edward Thomas, who was a Welsh poet who met Robert Frost, who encouraged him to do writing. And it kind of creates an idyll that isn't quite where we're at now. We don't have steam trains going along, for example. Okay, so the poem's called Addlestrop, and it's by Edward Thomas. And it goes like this. Yes, I remember Addlestrop, the name, because one afternoon of heat, the express train drew up there unwontedly. It was late June. Steam hissed. Someone cleared his throat. No one left, and no one came. On the bare platform, what I saw was Addlestrop, the name. And willows, willow herb and grass, and meadow sweet and haycocks dry, No whit less still and lonely fair than the high cloudlets in the sky. And for that minute a blackbird sang close by, and round him, mistier, further and further, all the birds of Oxfordshire and Gloucestershire. Addlesfrock by Edward Thomas. I think that really creates a mood, and I can certainly imagine that train pulling up at that quiet platform in the middle of Gloucestershire. No trains go there now, sadly, but the poem is there on the sign as you go into the village as well. Okay, so look out for it. And I'm going to finish with a poem by my friend Belinda. Belinda is a library assistant over at Bradford-on-Avon Library, and she's written a poem called A Library in a Lockdown, and she sent it through to me and said, oh, could you read this out? So I thought it'd be really nice to, okay? So I'll finish with this one, and I hope you've enjoyed the tea and chat and poems. In fact, before that, I am going to have another bit of tea from the mug. Okay. And I promise you I will eat the biscuits, but I think it would be very messy if I did that in front of you. Okay. But they're very good. Okay, so I'm going to read Belinda's poem, Belinda Webley, from Bradford-on-Avon Library, and her poem is called A Library in Lockdown. All is silent. No lights are on. No hum from computers. No low murmured conversation. No movement. No life. The air is stale. Stagnant. Dust has settled. Empty and abandoned. The library is closed. Yet the day will come when the doors will be opened again. Fresh air will sweep in. Lights will turn on. Computers will thrum. New books will arrive. Interesting displays will be created. People will eagerly browse, re-experiencing the pleasure of a physical book in their fingertips, of turning the page with anticipation at the new world they're about to discover. A singular, complete world of itself. A gift directly from the author. Information will be given, ideas flourishing, a smile exchanged, a feeling of companionship, an atmosphere of friendship will pervade, and the library will, once again, be at the heart of the community. And the library, once again, will be at the heart of the community. So thank you, Belinda. That's a lovely poem. I hope you get to see it on Facebook. We'll get you sorted out with that as well. Okay, A Library in Lockdown by Belinda. Okay, thank you very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed your cup of tea and enjoyed me reading you a few of my favourite poems. My colleague Phil Tomes, the wonderfully named librarian from Salisbury Library, Phil Tomes, will be doing it next Tuesday afternoon at 3 o'clock. So keep an eye out. That will be on the Salisbury Library Facebook, but we'll tell you about it on ours as well. Lovely to see you all. Everyone take care and look after yourselves. Bye for now. Take care.